Good afternoon, everyone. My name is King Malmero, and I'm here to discuss the policy formulation. So, to begin, first we define policy. So, a policy is defined as stated course of action adopted and followed by the organization in doing its work. Ito yung mga rules, guidelines, directions, or law na kailangan natin i-follow. So, next, sa declaration of policy. Specified the name insured, address, policy period, location of premises, policy limits, and other key information that varies from insured to insured. So, basically, kinikilala ng batas itong mga sumusunod na layunin upang maisakatuparan ang kontrata sa pagitan ng legislatures and executing body. For example, ang policy is Republic Act 5416, which created the Ministry of Social Services and Development, or the MSSD, and now the Department of Social Welfare and Social Welfare and Development, or the SWD. So, dito sa Declaration of Policy, it is now hereby declared that it is the responsibility of the government to provide a comprehensive program of social services designed to ameliorate the living conditions of distressed Filipinos, particularly those who are handicapped by reason of poverty, and etc. So, next is the agency policy. A written statement formally adopted by the board or legal authority and publicly made to guide the provision of services. So, agency policy, it specified the rules pertaining the specified programs, like how programs are handled, how funds are allocated, and qualifications of just accusations of social services. So, yeah. And now let's move on to the 8 stages of policy formulation identified by high respect. First stage is the identification of the problem or issue. So, policy is meant to address a particular issue, right? So, in order to formulate, we first need to identify the issue or problem that needs to be focused. Of course, hindi tayo basta-basta gagawa ng policy kung hindi tayo knowledgeable sa problema. We need to have our basis. And second is the analysis of the problem. So, after we identify the minor problem, we need to analyze and assess its nature and extent, so we can therefore also identify what approach or policy should be made. And third stage is the informing the public about the program. So, syempre, the public should be informed, and their opinions should be considered in policy making, since they are the ones who experience and aware of the nature's problem. And the fourth is the development of the policy goals, including the involvement of other agencies. So, after the problem was being thoroughly organized and conclusions are made, policy goals can now be established in partnership with other linkages, agencies that may serve as a foundation. So, fifth stage is the building of public support. So, this is vital to determine if the developed policy goals are fit or beneficial to everyone. Now, let's move on to the sixth stage, which is the legislation or enunciation of policy. Of course, in order for the policy to implement, then it should be approved by legislative power. It must undergo with legal process. Yun. And seventh stage is the implementation and administration. So the essence of policy does not end after it is formulated. So it should be administered or managed for effectivity. So yun. And lastly, we have the assessment and evaluation. The policy should be evaluated to determine its efficacy, if it is helpful or not, and distinguish the areas to change and to add on. And the last slide. Now, the importance of policy. So, as stated course of action for agency work, um, social policy should be considered the context for all social work practice. This makes it important for social work practitioners to be truly familiar with the policies governing the agency and on which rules procedures are based. So as a social worker, policy awareness is formulated not just lieu of legal guidance, but it contracts a similar idealism towards collective bargaining of human dignities. So policies are made crucial for social elevation, and thus it is their work and duties to exert efforts knowing its provisions and objectives. So that's all. And now, let me introduce you to the second topic to be discussed by Miss Rizabel Basanis.
Hi everyone, I will continue the second function of management.
A plan is a course of action for reaching a goal, beginning now or at any predetermined time in the future. Planning is the process of anticipating goals or targets and then preparing a plan for reaching them. It is a process of mapping out and activities towards the accomplishment of goals and projecting the means resources of achieving them. In short, planning is a prerequisite of doing anything.
There are four reasons for planning. First, efficiency. This means to achieve goals with a minimum of cost and effect, meaning the ability to do something or produce something without wasting materials, time, or energy. Second, effectiveness. This means to achieve or produce the desired result, which is to help people in need. The third one is the accountability or the your responsibility. Planning is needed for evaluation and accountability to the public, the families, and to the clients. The last one is the morale or your self-confidence. Every staff member needs to understand exactly what to do and how to do the job properly. According to Regents, there are five essential planning elements or the important elements na dapat mo isulod sa isa ka plano. Goal or the what. Resources, means, procedure, and the methods or the how. People involved in achieving the goals or the who. Method of evaluation and review, and conditions under which the plan will be implemented. Principal types of plans. Substantive plan. This plan is designed to achieve program objectives. It calls for the formulation of broad issues confronting the program. Procedural plan. This plan is designed for the organizational structure within which are embodied the various administrative mechanisms such as rules, guidelines, standard operating procedure and reporting requirements, and the like.
Characteristics of effective planning. It should be based on clearly well defined objectives or goals. It should be simple and easily understood. it should be flexible, it should be easily analyzed and classified, and it should be able to maximize existing or limited resources such as funds and personnel. These are the characteristics of effective that you should apply on your plan to make it your plan a desired result or nice result. Muna siyang planning principle. There are 10 planning principle. Huwag di na nako siya isa-isa kay magtaas na explain na nako siya diretso. The principle of planning explains that the plan is related to the future and for the future. So if formulating plans, it could be complete, clear, and reliable knowledge. Planning principle is a statement of desirable outcome from a chain of reasoning aimed at reaching or a list of appropriate matters to be considered in making plan decision. Planning principles are not legally binding and they do not prevail over council plan and policies. So, ang planning principle is mo ni siya ang rules kibali or dapat natong i-consider if magbuhat tag plan para if ato na siyang sundon na siya possible outcome na nice. Basic planning steps. According to Skidmore, in social work and in social service agency, planning is recognized as never before to be an essential ingredient in the effective delivery of services. The planning process in social work is basically similar to the planning process in management, but there are some different emphasis. He adds that planners in agency need to understand clearly the aims and purposes of the agency's charter and policies. These are the basic planning steps. Select objectives or select the targets or goals. There are two kinds of objectives, overall and long range and specific and short range. Consider agency resources, enumerate the alternatives, anticipate the outcomes of each alternative, decide what's the best plan a specific program for action, and be open to change. Programming is an organized work intended to advance the social conditions of a community and especially of the disadvantaged by providing psychological counseling, guidance, and assistance, especially in the form of social service. Hungate defines a program as a unit of planned, purposive action. On the other hand, programming is the process of preparing or setting up the program involving specific period of time service. Program, project planning, and proposal writing. In order to develop plans and make the program effective, the worker usually has to look beyond the resources of his or her own agency. After carefully formulating and designing a project, it is equally important to write a proposal that will attract the necessary funding. Proposal writing is a skill that requires knowledge and practice. Proposal format. Title page, title of project, name of person applying funds, name of organization sponsoring the proposal, length and date of project, proposal summary, introduction and background development situation, problem statement of assessment of need, project goal, objectives and beneficiaries, project description and methods, evaluation, budget, schedule, and future funding sustainability.
Organization. Organization is a process means setting up of the individuals and function into productive relationships and aim towards accomplishment of a certain objectives. In other words, it is a system created to achieve common goals through people to people and people to work relationships.
Organizational structure.
Organizational structure is a system that outlines how certain activities are directed in order to achieve the goals of an organization. There are two types of organizational structure. First is formal organizational structure. It refers to one which is established by the law. In other words, formal organizational structure is an officially codified hierarchical arrangement of relationships between different jobs with organizational units and relationships between departments within the organization. Second is informal organizational structure. It refers to the one established unconsciously by the spontaneous groupings of persons and consists of rules, sentiments, tradition, and customs. It means that it is a network of social and personal relationships that occur in a work environment. So, there are types of formal organization. First is line organization. This is concerned with working towards primary service goals. The line authority here is from top to bottom or the supervisor to subordinate relationship. Line organization is the simplest framework for the whole administrative organization. Functional organization. This is focused on the function or activities in each unit with the functional specialist or staff supervising the activities of a single subordinate. In other words, it is used to organize workers. Line and staff organization. This is made up of line and staff units exerting authority over their own subordinates. In other words, it establishes goals and directiveness that are then fulfilled by staff and workers. And the last one is committee type of organization. This is not as common as the above but is also recognized as a type of formal organizational structure wherein a group of persons act as a body and perform functional, staff, or line duties. In other words, it is association of people set up to arrive at solution to common problems. In appraising the agency's formal and informal structure, there are three concepts which are significantly special, and these are the following. Line of authority. Authority means the specific administrative and supervisory responsibilities of supervision to their supervisors. Agency policy usually specify these lines of authority in writing. The next one is channels of communication. In formals of authority, communication should flow harmoniously and synchronistically along the lines of authority. And the last one is dimension of power. According to Ashman, power is the potential ability to move people on a chosen course to produce or achieve some goal. The same authors say dimensions of power are supposed to follow the lines of authority. Models of organization. Bureaucratic. This form of organization, which can be seen as pyramid, that is, there is no one authority on the top and the base is under, the chain of command, therefore, is from the top to bottom. Democratic. This form of organization where employees participate and share decision-making, policy-making, and so forth. In other words, it is organizational governance in which all people rule, not only managers or shareholders. Adhocracy. Since no model is perfect and rarely do we find in practice one that is purely eukaryotic or democratic, a new model is called adhocracy. In other words, it is individuals' initiative and self-organization. Collegial or professional team model. This model trigger emphasizes the group of professional colleges organization, a collaborative lifestyle that prize well-used channels of communication. In other words, it is based around teamwork, everybody is working as colleges, hence the name of the model. Organizational chart is a pictorial presentation of the form which the organization structure takes. So, this is an example of organizational chart. It shows how work is divided, what work, each person, unit, and section. Kinds of organizational chart. Vertical chart. This shows the position of authority at the top with the different levels in horizontal position and the function running vertically. Example of vertical chart. Horizontal chart. This shows the position of authority on the left side and present the different levels in a vertical position while the functions are shown horizontally. Example of horizontal chart. And the last one is circular chart. This shows the position of authority from the middle of the circle and the function flow from the center. Example of circular chart. Benefits provided by an organizational chart. It clarifies and defines the lines of responsibility and authority. It helps prevent organizational aisles such as backpassing and empire building. It helps in developing sound procedures and it provides visual aid. It aids communication as it gives a picture of where decision making is. It promotes greater efficiency as it helps in maintaining organizational stability, flexibility, and balance.
Even with planning, setting the objectives and organizing, defining the work unit and their relationship are already in place. The agency cannot meet its objective unless there are personnel to do the job. What is staffing? According to the Society for Personnel Administration, staffing, personnel management, or administration is the art of acquiring, developing, and maintaining competent workforce in such manner to accomplish with maximum efficiency and economy the function and objective of the organization. Staffing is a process of hiring eligible candidate in the organization for a specific job. It means putting the right person to the right job. Staffing, personnel management, administration objectives may be stated as follows. The first objective was to secure and develop adequate and efficient personnel to aid management in accomplishing the goal of the organization. Second is to aid every personnel to develop and perform to the limit of his capacity, recognizing his interests and competency. To attain the objective of staffing, the following process or elements are involved. Effective recruitment, selection, and hiring. Every agency usually has a personnel policy and selection procedures. This involves job description after a job analysis has been done. According to Ray Johns, the job description should include the following. First is description of the position. It says what the position is and to whom the person is responsible. Second is duties and responsibilities. Third is qualification and relationship. Recruitment and selection can be accomplished through advertising in national newspapers or journals, contacts with schools, websites, internet, and through contacts. The look usually used in staff selection are the application forms showing the personal data, personal records, such as the transcripts of records and reference from school head or teachers. Once the applicant is noticed of his acceptance, he should be furnished with information regarding the salary, duties, responsibilities, and relationships, as well as the job description and the agency's personnel policy. With that information, the applicant can make his decision, and if they are acceptable to him, he is then hired. Number 2 is placement. Once the applicant is hired, it is assumed that he or she is the right person for the right job. Third are orientation or introduction and training. Despite the new employee's formal education, management should proceed on the premise that the new employee know a little of what he need to know about the agency. Thus, it is the responsibility of the agency to give the employee the need information in a form of orientation. Orientation or introduction is the procedure for introducing the new worker to the agency history, objectives, organization and standard operating policies and procedures, rules and regulations, benefits, services, etc. Thus, orientation and introduction is the first part of the overall training program of the new workers in the agency. According to the rules and regulation implementing the Labor Code, Book 2, Rule 1, training is defined as systematic development of attitude, knowledge, skills, behavior patterns requires for the adequate performance of a given task or job. From this definition, Perfecto Season give the objective of training as follows. A. Productivity. It is for the employee to be more efficient. B. Effectiveness on the present job. It is for the improvement of skills and knowledge of the employee. C. Is qualification for a better job. It is to prepare him or her to more difficult or higher jobs. And lastly, D. Moral booster. It is to improve the employee's attitude in the workplace. Since social work is a dynamic profession, continuous development of the workers is needed to keep them abreast of new trends and development. Every agency is expected to a staff development program, and it must be a continuous process and must be a planned program. Performance appraisal or rating. This is the systematic periodic inventory of appraisal of a person's characteristic, potentiality, and performance through observation by a rater on the basis of a systematic and uniform performance standard or goals made by the employee and the employer. It is used to equitably and wisely decide for promotions, transfer, reduction, or layoff to determine training needs and as an incentive and basis for effective supervision. Number 5 is promotion. This refers to the advancement of a worker to a better job or position in terms of greater responsibility, more prestige, greater skills, and usually increase in salary. Factors to be considered in promotion are the merit and performance or seniority. Transfer. This is the movement of the worker from one position to another with basically the same responsibility and salary level. This is done to adjust workloads for remedial purpose. It helps to achieve greater versatility and greater job satisfaction. Moreover, it is a horizontal movement as against the vertical movement of promotion. Wage and salary administration. This is the pay that the worker receives as incentive to do his or her job well. Though a social worker is expected to work because of his commitment to serve, he or she must himself survive. Hence, he or she work to earn a living. However, the wage and the salary level depend upon the financial condition of the employing agency. Number 8 is discipline. This is the force that prompts an individual or group to observe rules, regulations, and procedures that are deemed necessary to the attainment of the objectives. It should not be seen as punishment but after a form of education. It is the employer's action against the employee for infraction of company rules or policies. In short, it is a process of control. Employee benefits and services. In addition to direct wages which is the worker receives, a supplemental compensation or services is given by the agency which is called employees benefits or fringe benefits. These may include health and medical services, retirement and pension, recreational, social and athletic services, counseling and related services, and living allowance. And lastly, number 10, turnover, separation, and retirement. Turnover refers to the shift and replacement of personnel. It may be due to separation, retirement, death, and disability. Separation is defined by season as the termination of employment as a result of resignation, layoff, or discharge, while the voluntary separation is better known as resignation or quitting, is generally initiated by the employee. Moreover, some organizations provide compensation for those who resign depending upon their policy. Retirement means permanently stop on a job. Compulsory retirement range from 55 to 65 years depending upon the organization's policy. The most common retirement plan is the sum of money equivalent to one half or 1 month pay for every years of service given by the organization. The importance of staffing is it increases employee morale and job satisfaction. Further, it helps the top management in asserting the manpower requirements resulting from a promotion, transfer, employee turnover, retirement, and etc. of the existing employees or social worker within an agency.
Success and achievements can be attained through manpower or people's efforts, and these efforts must need to have direction. It's like going into an adventurous place with your team without having a map. Assume that this map is the administrator, the executive, or the leader. Now without this map, you will probably lost. But having this map will give you a concrete guidance plans to reach your desired destination. Same thing with an organization. There's always a need for a louder voice, a voice that calls for duty in achieving goals. So here comes the directing as the heart of management process. It's all started in planning. Planning is deciding what to do, when to do it, and how it's gonna be done. The best planning, organizing, and staffing do not give any result or importance unless there is a proper directing. With this function, the manager makes the employees accomplish their task by making them integrate their individuals' efforts. Through directing, the employees are able to recognize their own contribution in the successful completion of tasks, and thus they develop a sense of pride in their achievements. In its sense, directing is a process which administrator instruct, guide, and lead subordinates to achieve desired goals. Directing has four elements. These are supervision, motivation, leadership, and communication. All of these are done to ensure that the organizational goals are met. Supervision. It is a process by which managers oversee and ensure work done by the employees conforms with requirements and standards, while motivation is a process of inducing employees the will to do the work in exchange for favorable rewards. Leadership. It is the ability of a manager to establish clear vision, provides knowledge, and builds relationships. In an organization, it's leadership that sets the vision and empower employees. In nation, it's leadership that creates progress, serve people, and set guiding rules for the betterment of its constituent. In school, it's leadership that embodies responsibilities and serve as good role model to its fellows. In a group, it's leadership that creates plan and decision for its member to take part, make efforts, and participate. Lastly, communication, which is a process of reaching an understanding where both exchange ideas, informations, and feelings that circulate in a workplace. These are essential elements that help direct and manage people. Again, these are SMLC. Steps in directing. It involves setting up the major responsibilities, persons, units, and branches. Second, placing the jobs, responsibilities, functions properly in an organizational pattern. Third, issuing the direction, special assignments, and orders. Lastly, controlling or directly closely by a basic policies and plans. Now, why is it necessary? Because directing engage interaction in the workplace. Second, it creates motivation and promote collaborations. It also ensures employee discipline. And lastly, it gives direction, which makes the organizational goal oriented.
So we proceed to section 6, which is controlling. After directions have been given, the executive's task is not yet complete. It is not merely achieving the objectives that counts, but it is also the assurance of correct performance as specified by the standard set. So controlling, by definition, according to Davis and Philly, is the work of constraining, coordinating, and regulation action in accordance with plans for the achievement of specified objects. It involves establishing a set of standards, guides, or requirements as a basis of measuring and evaluating performance against objectives. This implies motivation for the people to make actions to conform to the standards that assure satisfactory accomplishments. And there are essential steps in the control process, which are setting standards at strategic points, checking and reporting on performance, getting feedback or information about the results of performance, and taking corrective action. So, for the purpose of control on any deviation, standards are the goals and objectives of the organization/agency as a whole and are broken down into objectives for individual departments and sections. This is stated in the book edited by Scatz according to Newman. Controlling. Here are some methods of controlling. We have reporting, setting deadlines, inspection, and prior approval of projects. Control begins with the process of checking actual results against such stated objectives. If control is to have an effective influence on performance, the administrator should make sure that the goals are identified with individual responsibility. Corrective action is the decisive factor in control. Comparison of actual results with projected objectives and standards often showed discrepancies. As soon as this is discovered, steps must be taken to correct past actions or to bring similar action in the future closer to the desired goal. That's it. Thank you.